Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Core Energy Podcast. I'm your host, Kurt Bruckman. I hold my mastery in Core Energy Dynamics. I'm a certified global coach. I also write for Brains Magazine as a senior contributor writer that reaches 65 different countries. I am a best-selling, internationally acclaimed author in an anthology, Ready, Connect, Grow. I'm also here with our co-director and co-producer, Alex Fabio. Today we have a very special guest, longtime friend of mine. He is Bart Rogers. He is a very active lacrosse coach and has done wonderful things in the lacrosse community. Bart also has experience in business, which we're going to hear about. So Bart, hey, welcome. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Kurt. Good to be with you.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome to have you, Bart. It's been some time. So, Bart, if you will, just give us some history as to, where you came from, where you've been, and where you are, and then we're going to fly it from there.
Well, I originate from New Jersey in Monmouth County. In 1970, I went to the Petty School, 8th grade to 12th. Then I went to Monmouth University and finished at William Patterson. And then upon graduation, I couldn't find a job. My sister worked for the Seafarers International Union as a lobbyist. And I ended up going to work, of all places, on a merchant ship for a couple of years, and found my way from there to the Maritime Training School in Southern Maryland, a place called Piney Point, the Harry Lumberg School of Seamanship. I spent 44 years there as the director of manpower and the vice president of the Paul Hall Center for Maritime Training, and retired 2 years ago. And throughout this whole process, I've been coaching lacrosse. This is my 30th year down here. I coached a few years up in New Jersey at Rumson Country Day before I came down here. And when I got here, there was no lacrosse. Myself and a few other guys, we got together and we decided to make it a reality. We started with a youth lacrosse club team. And then we helped get somebody elected to the school board. And he made it a varsity sport, and the program and the sport has grown tremendously since that day 30 years ago.
Fabulous. Your business background is interesting. So I just want to touch on that a little bit, and then we're going to go into the lacrosse because I know that you founded Rumson Country Day School Lacrosse, which is now done quite well, and you were a big part of that. So, Bart, with the transition from being a merchant marine, what was that like out there dealing with all that, first of all, and how did that sort of transition you into your desire to be one of the best coaches in the East Coast, for sure?
Well, let me tell you, when I went on my first ship, I was scared to death. I didn't have any training. I went cold because they wanted me to go to the school that I ended up being the vice president at, but I knew that I probably didn't have the discipline to succeed there. It was a quasi-military program, and I've never been really good at people in my face yelling at me and things like that. So I just went to the ship, and it was scary. The first ship I went on was an entire Spanish-speaking crew, and I did not speak Spanish. So you can imagine, Kurt, you know my background. I was a bit of a fish out of water. But, after a month went by, the crew becomes part of your family, especially when they learn that you're there to learn and work just like they are, and you don't pose any threat to them. And they take you under their wing and they teach you everything you need to be taught. And, those 2 years of sailing for me were an incredible experience. I sailed all around South America. I've been to Bahrain.
Wow.
I've been to Saipan, Guam. I've been to a lot of places I never would have seen, and I made money in the process. So those 2 years that I did this were quite adventurous.
Well, Bart, knowing you from our childhood, it doesn't surprise me that you took the leap and, you don't carry fear. You understand fear, I know, but you certainly don't carry it. So to hear that you spent 2 years like that on a ship with, not speaking the language and traveling to those foreign areas and part of the world, really spectacular, Bart.
Yeah, it was certainly out of the norm the way we grew up. We we grew up differently. We were programmed to go to college and then go to work. I could have worked in my father's business, but that really wasn't just for me. And I don't think I would have succeeded there. Chipper did, my brother, but I don't think I would have. And going out to sea and ending up at the Lundberg School really was the smartest decision I ever made for myself at the time.
Fantastic. Well, you're good about identifying things, that you're proving that for sure. And to have spent all those years in that business, which is not easy physically, mentally, and all. Can you describe that aspect for us, how that worked for you, the physical and the mental part of it, the emotional part?
Well, the physical part was not that much of a big deal. I originally went there to be the phys ed teacher because I had a degree in physical education. And the president of the union wanted to start a phys ed program down at the school. So I went there. I had the degree in physical education. I had a minor in business. And I evolved through my relationship with that president of that union. And, it wasn't long before we created a maritime tracking system so that we knew where every mariner was, how long they'd been there, all the contributions that had been made on their behalf, all the contributions they made on their own behalf. So it was a complete mariner tracking system, the only one of its kind in the United States. And it wasn't long before, I ended up crewing all the ships. I did Desert Storm, Desert Shield. I did Enduring Freedom, Iraqi Freedom, and I became as a maritime recruiting specialist and a manpower specialist. Spent a lot of time going to meetings because I crewed a lot of the military Sea Lift Command ships with generals and admirals playing war games and at different bases around the country. And I just evolved into the position because, we started it when I got there. 2 years after I was there, I started moving away from the phys ed aspect of things and into the office aspect of things. So myself and a few other people that work for me, and some of them are still working there, believe it or not. We created this program and this system, and we were able to tell where every mariner was at any given time, on what ship, how long they've been there, what their ratings were. We had a handle on our manpower pool completely.
Wow.
So it was interesting, and some interesting things happened. The Maersk Alabama with Captain Phillips, that was us.
Phenomenal.
All the ships we crewed out of the Ready Reserve Fleet during Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom led to me receiving a medal from the President of the United States for my role in that. And
fantastic.
Oh yeah, it was an interesting career, and it took me to a lot of places, and it got me a lot of notoriety, but it also allowed me the opportunity to coach lacrosse, which is, one of the best. I could have gone to other places and made a lot more money, but I couldn't have gone to other places and done what I really wanted to do. So.
You're true to your core, my friend. This is all part of who you are. And, when we start talking about the core energy experience, the core energy dynamics is exactly what you're starting to describe here. And that's about leadership, which, you are a tremendous leader. And thank you for all your service and all you've done, Bart. That is tremendous stuff. And then along with the leadership in the core energy dynamics, we have performance, which again, you're pointing to in your job. We're going to talk about that in lacrosse as well. And also along with that is the well-being, right? However that serves us. You obviously were on top of that. And the transition that you were going through constantly out there on the high seas and in the throngs of danger like that. And congratulations on the medal from the presidency. Well deserved, Bart. That's fabulous stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, 100%. So let me ask before we transition into the lacrosse coaching, and really want to get there because you've been doing such wonderful work there for the community broadly. But how was it for you when you decided to step away from the Merchant Marine after experiencing all those things? What was that energy like when you started coming out of it?
Well, Kurt, when you go from being somebody, I mean, like you could Google my name and you'll see it pop up when it comes to maritime everywhere. When you go from being somebody to suddenly being retired, the initial reaction to it is pretty hard. I had 150 people working for me, not to mention the entire maritime membership of the Seafarers Union, and I'm not going to say it was easy because it wasn't, but the lacrosse, and that was my plan, was to use that to help me transition. As much as I enjoyed doing it, was also going to help me transition into retirement. and go from being who I was to who I am now. And that's, I mean, down here where I live, when you mention the word lacrosse, everybody knows my name is synonymous with it. So
Yes, they
it's kind of
do.
like my brother with pickleball in South Florida.
Yeah.
So it's helped me transition. It really has.
That's great. That's great to hear because that's fabulous energy that you brought to your job out there and what you did with your groups and having, manned all those people at such high stakes. That's intense stuff, did you ever get fearful in doing that, or how do you deal with fear and all
I
throughout
never
all
I
that?
never had any fear, but I always felt like I had a responsibility and an obligation to make sure the ships were crewed on time and crewed properly with the Coast Guard required ratings. And that really puts you under the gun a lot, especially, I mean, during COVID, a lot of people stopped sailing. So we were really short personnel. And I didn't want to be the one responsible for a ship being stuck at the dock when they might be carrying military cargo to a place that the military obviously needed. So you were always under the gun to get the job done, always. During Desert Storm and Desert Shield, we worked 16 hours a day for almost 2 years. It was nonstop.
How'd you deal with that pressure, Bart? That's extreme pressure.
Well, I had great people working for me, and the shipping companies that we represented all worked together for a common goal. It wasn't like union and management. It was one team, one goal, and one operation, and we worked to get it done, just like you do in sports.
You took the words right out of my mouth. One team, one goal, get it done. Go from the me to the we to the us, right?
You know, we have at that school we have a entry level apprentice program, and every month 30 kids would come in, and I would sit down with them, and I would put 4 words on the wall, on the board, and the first one was motivation, the next one was discipline, the third one was structure, and then the last one was conform. And I would tell them, you need these 4 qualities to succeed here at this school and in life. And I preach the same thing to my players to this day, because those are the 4 core values that I believe in and have carried me through this whole thing.
Well, that's fantastic. Obviously, it works, Bart, not just for you, but for what you've been delivering to all these programs that you have in lacrosse. Now, we'll go back to Rumson Country Day. I remember when you first started, lacrosse was non existent in New Jersey, particularly on the peninsula where we live in Monmouth County at that time. It was not there. So it was like, what is Bart up to, bringing this to that private school, Rumson Country Day? And my gosh, Bart, you should see the program now because of what you've done. But refresh and let the viewers know, what time period of your life was that when you did that?
It was right after, I'm going to say it was right before I shipped out. And I believe I'm going to say 79,
So there you
maybe
go. All these years.
1979.
Yeah.
Well,
And the,
I played lacrosse at Petty, and that's where I got my start. I had a roommate from Long Island, and he taught it all to us. And I had a phenomenal lacrosse coach who I worshiped. And, between football and lacrosse, the mentors that I had were fantastic. And I've never forgot that. And I try to bring that to the table with my people all the time. I call them my community down here. Everybody's considered part of my family because, you know, that's important. And that's the way I was made to feel as a person growing up in the prep school environment at Petty.
Tremendous, tremendous. I mean, your experiences are phenomenal, Bart. From what you've done in the business world and bringing what you started here locally. I'm still in the Rumson area in Monmouth County, and lacrosse has taken off. Rumson Fairhaven lacrosse has been state champs. We didn't have any of that. You were the one.
Well, I follow all the teams from up there, Kurt. I follow every single one of them all the time to see what the scores. I got a nephew playing at Shore Regional right now,
Oh, good.
and I keep tabs on him. And I follow all those schools up there because that's where my roots are. My heart will always be in Monmouth County, always.
I love hearing that. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
it'll always be in Monmouth County on the ocean. Growing up there, the memories we had as kids were just fantastic.
We did. I was so fortunate to be close with you, Bart, in our teen years, earlier than our teen years. And we experienced a lot of fun together, a lot of things, but always concentrated on sports. And you were always the leader there, always. I admired that very much. And then when you went off and started Rumps Country Day lacrosse, that's a big move. But it just goes to show that, that leadership quality in you is tremendous. And you have done so many good things for so many people. And to your point, creating a community, which is so important in all we do in life. We don't succeed in isolation. We need to collaborate. We need to be creative and also co-create with others around us and to build that team, go from the me to the we to the us. Really important. And these are part of the qualities that you have. So now that we're on the subject of lacrosse, Bart, let's start going from Rumps Country Day back in that time frame and bring us forward to it, so we can hear more about what you've been delivering to not just individuals but to communities and families and the states of the ability to get in lacrosse and how that is.
Well, it started a little bit selfishly. I mean, I moved down here and I really didn't know anybody, so I went and played in a men's bar league. Um, Before there was the professional lacrosse league or the MLL and those things, the guys who graduated college played in the men's bar league. So, that's what I played in. I met a lot of people in that period of time. I did that for about 7 years until the team folded. But when I have 5 children and my sons weren't doing anything, and I was determined that they were going to do something. So selfishly, that was one of my reasons for diving into the lacrosse was I wanted to get them to do something. And that's where it all was spawned from, down here. And there was a few other people who were with me that all felt the same way about their kids. And, that's how we made it go. But, nothing happens without getting involved politically. So we knew we had to go that route because this is big baseball area. And they all thought that lacrosse was going to ruin baseball. And we had a lot of work to do to make them understand that baseball players play baseball. This is just another avenue for people to do something that aren't doing anything. So, it evolved from the youth league to high school. We started with a JV team for 2 years, and then it went to a girls team and then the girls programs. And I mean, I think there's probably 1,000 kids playing lacrosse in my little county all by itself right now. And I have 3 grandsons playing now. I have a granddaughter playing now, and I have my own team that I'm coaching now. I mean, when it all started, I was coaching the youth league and the high school team at the same time and working. So it just was a lot of time and a lot of energy going into a lot of things. And my coaching staff consists of 9 people. They're all people that I coached when they were in high school. So.
Well, that's an extreme compliment for you, as you know, Bart. That when we have people come from the time frame when we were educating them in sports, that they come full circle and come around and want to be a coach. That's tremendous. Not a lot people may think about it as athletes, but they don't take action. And because of your leadership and your serving, I mean, you've served full-heartedly to everyone. Obviously, not just to your beautiful family, and that's fabulous, but also to all families, and that's just so important in life. It's that it is a bit of give back too, but it's that constant servants. We're here in this life, hopefully, to leave it better than we came in, and that has to come from serving to others, right? And building communities like you are. You're a growth seeker. You're constantly growing. Look, you retired. To your point, you could have eased back and maybe not taken sort of a back seat to lacrosse, but it's too much inside of who Bart Rogers is. And that's a beautiful thing. You're a great example for all our listeners that are out there right now, and people that you've been engaging with all the way through your life to this point, and you're going to continue because you're just into growth, and that is a tremendous asset, Bart. Really awesome.
There's an old saying, you can wear away or you can rust away, and I'm not going to rust away. I mean, I coach travel lacrosse too, all through the summer and the fall. I'm constantly trying to promote the game and grow the game and help people who are not as fortunate in the schools that they play for feel what it's like to win a tournament championship. I mean, it's, these kids all just say to me, I never would have experienced that if I hadn't come play travel lacrosse with you. So, it's a great feeling all the way around, and it constantly gives back. It just does. There's some frustration too. Don't get me wrong.
Of course. Well, we know that you're adverse. I'm sure the audience understands now that you're versed in dealing with those situations pursuant to your job, your career, which is phenomenal stuff. So, Bart, let's talk a little bit about the meaning of what lacrosse has brought to people in their lives. You started touching on that just now. Let's expound upon that a little more. Very important because the viewers really want to engage more and know how that is, so they can manifest that for themselves too.
Well, the single most important thing is that, like I said, the four core values that I believe in. That's what I try to teach them, and in teaching them that, I'm teaching them to be successful in whatever happens to them beyond where they're at right now with me. A lot of my kids have gone to college and got scholarships to play. That's a huge benefit. And when you go to lacrosse college and play lacrosse, you go in with an automatic group of friends right away, and it makes the whole process easier. But beyond that, when they get out of college, I have a lot of kids who tell me that, you know, having structure and having discipline has given me success. And a lot of these kids have gone on to do great things. And, the best part is that they all keep in touch with me through one way or another. It's so easy to now through social media and technology, but it's a beautiful thing. I had a young man who reached out to me this morning who's playing at Lewis University in Chicago and just checking in on how the season's going. And, he's telling me how his team's doing. And that's really happens all the time with us. It just does. And they all believe and they all think they're part of this family. And next to having my own family, and my career was great, but this is the single greatest thing I've ever done outside my own family.
That's just so awesome to hear, Bart. And again, I've known you all our lives, and you haven't changed one bit in that respect, man. Always there to help the underdog when we were growing up. I remember that. That's part of who you are, and I can resonate with that too. I relate to that aspect in life, and the fact that you've been delivering such wonderful things for the students, for the athletes, to take themselves forward in life. And you and I, as being athletes and understanding coaching, and hell, you've been in it a lot longer than I have. I coached a little high school hockey for measly 6 years compared to your career, and boy, I enjoy that. And like you, and the other day we had on one of my high school players from Russell Fairhaven here, who's down in Australia now working for Tinto Rio, one of the largest mining companies in the world, and lives there, So you know all these things, and how special the community is to have you, Bart, down there. So when we speak about your athletes and whatnot, and they're coming back to you, how does that work? In other words, what's that mean for you? What's that mean for them? And what kind of energy do you guys create with that?
Well, are you referring to the guys that are coaching with me?
Yes.
Well, the most perfect part is they understand how I want to run things and how I want to do things. And I will tell you, Coach, I was raised in the old school mentality like you were, and I coach that way today. I demand respect. I demand them to listen. If they have something to say to me, I don't have a problem with them saying it to me, but don't come to me with derogatory statements openly in front of the whole team. You want to talk about something, we'll talk about it privately. So having these guys who played for me already understand that, and it just helps send the message even more clear. And the more eyes you have, the better coaching you can provide. The other thing, I tell the parents, losing is a part of playing sports, but it doesn't mean we don't do this to lose. We do this to be successful. That's why we work hard. So initially they all look at me like, oh, Jesus. But then they learn to understand that, what I'm bringing to the table is important, because not a lot of people are bringing that to the table anymore. It's awful. Everybody should get a medal and a trophy type of world right now. And that's not the reality of the world. It just isn't. So, we're old school in what we do. And it works for us. We're ranked 7th in the state right now. And we are looking to win a conference championship and go beyond.
That's fabulous. Right there, you summed it up, Barton, so much about how life is. Approach everyone that we meet with kindness and respect first, right? And see what comes back. Then we adjust. And most importantly, that discipline is really important. Napoleon Hill speaks of discipline and different means and how that is with energy and to stay focused. And without that, how do we really perform to the best of our ability, right? So
Absolutely.
you with the understanding and being able to deliver to your coaches and your players and whatnot, that understanding, because we see so much of that wiry attitude. Yes, maybe the players get upset and they say things they shouldn't, but if it's a continuing thing, then that's no good, right? So we head that off at the path because that's not going to work in the business world.
Well, you have to teach them to be appropriate too. I mean, they don't understand inappropriate. They don't understand what their inappropriate comments can do to them personally and to the person they're being inappropriate to. I mean, you have to teach them. You have to teach them how to talk to a college coach. Pull your head up and look him in the eyes. I mean, there's plenty of times where I've had to teach people how to send a proper email to a coach. Because in all honesty, the things we learned in school don't get taught anymore. I mean, we took speech classes. I mean, we learned to write in cursive. We learned to write, period. We learned to punctuate. None of that's done now. So it's a whole different world. But those are the things that a coach notices when he talks to a young man. He looked at me right in the eye and he shook my hand and he didn't stop looking at me until we were finished talking. He had great questions. He showed a general interest. He didn't look at the ground or look at his phone while he was communicating with me. So those are all part of what we do too.
Yeah, absolutely. We know sports is a conduit and a gateway to the business world and a successful person in the business world as well. And this is why sports are so important for male and female, right? I know the girls lacrosse was on a big rise for a long time. Now girls ice hockey is starting to take off as well, which is great. We want all that. So, interesting, Bart, that you're touching upon the ways of how we were taught and educated to be proper athletes and respectful athletes and transferred into our lives and our business career. And we're seeing a little bit of a downturn in that. What do you attribute that to, and how are you working with that currently?
Well, for me, it's really because of the staff I have and the reputation I have here. People know what they're getting when they come to me, and their parents kind of prepare them for it. And they quickly learn that, there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. And we always try to do it the right way to the best we can, whether it's our homework, respect your parents, respect yourself, respect your school, respect your coaches, respect the opponents you play against. I don't want you cheering hits on the sideline because it's inappropriate and things like. You can sit there and smile and enjoy it, but you can't cheer for it because it's not the right thing to do, and it's a bad look. Shake hands properly when we're done, win or lose. Have your head held high if you did your best, and those are the things that, like I say always, this is what's going to make the difference in your life moving forward. As a parent, as an employee for somebody, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's important that you do it the right way and the way that we were. I mean, Kurt, you know it as well as I do. I mean, my dad had 5 children, and he would have a party at the house, and we were to be seen and not heard, and that's how it was.
100%.
And we did. We made sure we were seen and not heard.
We did.
So,
we did a good job of that.
And it took discipline to be able to do those things, even at a young age. So, I just think there's not enough discipline in young people today. I think they're constantly distracted, constantly. And they somewhat feel entitled in a lot of ways. And you have to get through those things before you can actually teach them to sport and teach them to survive in life.
Definitely.
So you have to have patience to do that.
Yeah, it's a process, right? Everything's a process. Sports is a process. Life's a process. Business world's a process. So you're right. Patience and strong, work value is very important. Bart, you touched on a couple of things there that are really important about transition in our current lifestyle. The parents, as a coach myself, that was always a difficulty in hockey. I'd have to give a 24-hour silence period because the parents would want to come in close to coming in the locker room, right? So in lacrosse, you hear, yeah. So I want you to go there, please, and tell me how you've been able to work with the parents and their emotions along the way, and frame it, if you will, a little bit, if you can, from the beginning of your lacrosse career, how the parents were there then compared to now, because we're talking generations.
Well, I can tell you in the beginning there was no reputation to help me. It was just me and the type of person I was. Um, you know, like I said, my whole life I've been aggressive, and lacrosse is an aggressive game. And I would protect and take care of my players to no end, and everybody knew that. And I think the parents appreciated that. But I can tell you, as we went along, and I've had my run-ins with parents. I mean, the best thing I can tell you is to let them air their grievances, be as respectful as you can. But you have to go to a point where you're not going to cross certain boundaries. They're not going to do it with you. You're not going to do it with them. And then, Kurt, winning cures all that.
Yes, it
If you
does.
win, then you don't hear much flack. Which
Right.
when you're losing, that you'll hear it. And luckily for me, I mean, I've never had a year where I didn't win 10 games.
Wow.
That's helped me a lot, and a lot of that's because the type of competition that was around us. But you have to win to keep the wolves at bay, and the kids have to be happy and be successful to keep the wolves at bay. And if you do that, then you deal less with parents more and more. And then of course interacting with them whenever you can, so they know who you are and what you're like, and they learn to get to know you personally, helps a lot with a lot of the parents not really jumping up and saying, why is my kid not playing? So it helps a lot. As long as you know them on a personal level, they know you. It helps a lot.
Yeah, well, you built quite a reputation. So obviously, all those tools that you've used to work with the parents, and we know they can get very wily at times and a bit out of control. Even fisticuffs sometimes in the stands. But parents can really be the trigger to the athlete. So when the parents get a little out of unruly, let's say, and do you see that a reflection in the children's play, the age groups? So let's talk about your age groups where you're concentrating in right now, so we can focus on
Well,
that.
I'm the varsity head coach, and I coach the varsity team one-on-one, but I have a JV staff that coaches them. So I have ninth graders to 12th graders.
Great,
I don't interact daily with the ninth and 10th graders, but I can tell you that when I'm on scene with them, they're all just a little bit nervous because of my reputation, which is fine. But I try to make them understand that I'm here to make you a better lacrosse player, and I try to josh around with them and kid around with them a little to ease that tension that they might have. Um,
great.
the varsity kids, they already know me. They know what to expect. They know what they've heard. And look, I wasn't always perfect at this in the beginning. And I'm not perfect now, but in the beginning, I was a bit of a crazy person too. They accused this Yukon coach Hurley of being a little nutty, right?
Yeah, Bobby Hurley.
I've been a little nutty myself. I mean, I've followed referees to their cars. I've done some things I'm not proud of. And I saw myself in a video one day yelling at a ref on the sideline, and I thought, my God, that's not the message I want to send to these kids. I got to stop doing this. And I did, because I mean, I would go home. My wife wouldn't come talk to me for 24 hours because I'd be so angry if we didn't win. I mean, so I've evolved and matured out of that because I realized how negatively it was impacting the kids. But I mean, I really don't have parent issues other than positive ones. I really don't. I've had a few over the years, but not many.
Well, that's a testament to who you are, and how you work with that. And I'm sure, go hand in hand, how you coach and how you were managing your operations on the high seas there. Wow, very intense in every way. And the fact that you can bring some lightheartedness to it, some joking around with the kids and whatnot, very important, right? Shifting the energy is what you've been doing, and you're a pro. You're a pro at it.
They have to know you love them. They do. You know, maybe that's not the right word, but it's the word I use because they do. I love them like they're my family. And they have to know that you have their best interest at heart and that you're going to protect them, look out for them, and lead them in the right direction. And that's what I try to do with them all. So maybe some of the things I do I shouldn't do or look past because of that feeling I have for the children and for the players. But, you know, for the most part, treat them like family. And that's what I do.
That's it. And hey, look, we're not perfect. We're human, and that's what makes us beautiful. And that's what makes Bart Rogers, the beautiful coach and man that you are, is the fact that you understand that, and we get emotional. That's understandable. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's where we start to control ourselves. Back to your discipline concept and things of that nature. Very important. And to tag onto that, Bart, it's about trusting our process, right? We really have to understand that we're going to make conscious choice, and that we're going to, not that choice and knee-jerk reaction, which you pointed out you've done upon occasion. That's over, and I've done it too. All the viewers have done that. So it's taking that choice and making a conscious choice, and then trusting our process, which is really, really important, as you know. And again, both in work and what you've been doing on the lacrosse field is tremendous.
Well, if you give a bad impression, you're going to get a bad impression. So, and it does take maturity to understand these things. But once you get to that point, you could demand effort, and you could demand excellence, and you could demand a lot of things. But you can't make them care for you, and you can't make them play hard for you if they don't think you care for them. It's that simple.
So Bart Rogers, and in what I believe in too, and the fact that they're like your family, and you use the word love. I think that's
Yep.
really excellent. That's wholehearted, that's raw, that's authentic, and that's Bart. That's I know you well enough to say this. That's part of who you are. That's part of your core. Yeah, okay, you're raw. That's great. That's beautiful. And you're authentic in that. So, that's what our viewers, we all have to understand. You tap into yourself that way. Don't be afraid. Put fear aside. Fear comes and goes. Time is our friend. Time will change. And Bart's a testament to all of this. Look at the massive changes he's been gone through transition. And he's trusted his process through his career, a fabulous career, Medal of Honor from the president. And then also all these years coaching the youth lacrosse, and they coming back to be a coach alongside him. So Bart, we have a few more minutes left. I just want to talk a little bit about your career overall, if you have them on hand, wins and percentage, and also what colleges you're able to focus on to get your players to get into, if possible.
Well, as far as my wins and losses go, I mean, I know I'm approaching maybe 350 in wins, but I'm not 100% sure. I know I've never had less than 10 wins, so
That's
a year, and
fabulous.
I'm 30 years coaching this thing now.
That's
But
huge,
not all those
huge.
30 years were at the high school, so I don't really know what that number is.
It's probably not a fair question, to be honest with you, because wins and losses. We sort of
I can tell you more about the losses than the wins. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I get that part. Oh, yeah, 100%.
I can definitely tell you about that.
Yeah, so I didn't, I really, that's a question that is sort of out there in the air. Wins and losses. The reason I bring that up, because it's really not about the wins and losses, right? It's really about what we're delivering in the moment to the game and to the kids. So where have some of your players gone on to?
I mean, I've had kids go play Division I lacrosse at schools like Towson, Manhattan University in New York. But Kurt, I should say, being a D1 athlete is great and all wonderful. But I tell these kids, nobody's making money playing lacrosse when this is over, really.
Right.
So go where you've never sat on the bench. You better go where you know you're going to play. And you better understand that comes with some sacrifices too. I have a kid going to York next year. I have 6 or 7 kids playing in college right now. I have one at a Division II school, Coker. I got 2 at a Division II school down in North Carolina, Methodist. I have one at a Division III school up in Pennsylvania, Newman, and another one at Immaculata in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
I have one at, like I said, Lewis University, which is a D2 school. And I have one at a school called Anderson down in South Carolina. But I don't preach where you go. I tell them first, go where you're going to going to find the course of study you want, number one, and then go where you know you're going to be able to step on the field and play, because sitting on the bench is no fun when you've been playing. But you know, from playing hockey, I remember you as a hockey player. I remember you on the ponds when they used to freeze and watching you skate around. I tried to play hockey myself because of you guys. But when you're good at something and you go to some place where you're one of 50 guys that are all good at it, and you're not going to get your first look until your junior year, you're not going to be happy. You're just not. So go where you can play and contribute. That's what I tell them.
That's awesome, Bart. We're coming to the end of our episode here with you, Bart, and I want to thank you so much for delivering such very valuable and useful information about your history, about who you are, and delivering to the audience the understanding that, our core energy is very important, including the discipline, giving back in every way, serving, and expressing your feelings of love, and how much that's tied into your family life, your business life. Here, and you and I have been friends for decades and decades, and we will do that until our last breaths, which are a long time from now. So we're going to continue to watch you serve, Bart, and that's really fabulous. So I want to thank you for coming on and speaking your truth and being authentic about everything. Really delivered some fabulous information and content for our viewers today.
Thanks, Kurt, for having me. I enjoyed it, and continued success.
Absolutely. We look forward to having you on again down the road, Bart. I just want to say to all the viewers out there, whatever platform you're on viewing this episode, please keep pressing the button. We will be on here on a weekly basis. And whether it's YouTube, Apple, or all the other platforms, please be on the watch, because we are there. So we thank you all for joining us today and enjoying Bart Rogers, our very special guest. And we hope to see you soon. Bye-bye now.